They'll smile in your face while emptying your pockets.
Scum. Absolute scum.
They'll sell you things you wouldn't even give to your worst enemy.
There is a real risk to the public, and we ain't going to have it.
They're dishonest, dirty, and downright incompetent.
Extensions are supposed to look natural. That is absolutely vile.
And when cornered, they can turn violent.
We've got you on camera.
What a god, I never knew. Ping, pang, pong.
Tonight, we meet the rogue traders who want to make you their prey. A new family estate car in a London garage for a routine checkup. There's actually nothing wrong with it, but these mechanics will soon see to that. A whack with a chisel, loosen the radiator a bit, and the owner will face a bill for £1,000 that he doesn't deserve. But these London rip-off merchants could learn a trick or two from the mechanics in this workshop in New York. Two examples of rogue traders at work, and proof of the length they'll go to rip you off. In fact, rogue traders are everywhere, and you're at risk whenever you part with money.
Be aware that those con men are there. Be aware they don't always look like con men, and be aware that you're not ever going to get anything cheap in a genuine fashion.
And no aspect of your life is sacred as far as these predators are concerned. They'll target your children.
All of the cards that we have on general release are actually being forged.
Your leisure time.
The whole thing is just a nightmare.
And even your future.
The dream was there, we grabbed the dream, we had the euphoria, and now we have a smashed hit rock bottom.
And they're comfortable in any surroundings, from London's most upmarket addresses to market stalls. But first base for the up-and-coming rogue trader is almost always the street. Saturday afternoon in Sheffield town centre, and everyone's out shopping. But not all transactions here are on the level. Police are moving in on pirates selling computer games.
Right, Roger, can we have strike?
What's up there? You're under arrest. Stop struggling, pal, or else you will get hurt.
Stop messing around.
These youths are at the sharp end of a massive counterfeit business which robs the software companies of an estimated £3 billion a year in Britain alone. These games might look like a bargain, but you run the risk of getting blank discs, pornography in innocent boxes, or even a computer virus with this lot. Back at the police station, the officers unload, then start to examine their haul. They recovered £18,000 worth of counterfeit games. One step up from street hustlers are the wide boys who work from temporary outlets and stores. In recent years, empty shops, hotels and village halls all over the country have started being used for one-day sales, or mock auctions as they're known.
Who's in my shop for the first time? Raise your hands up. Right, close up to me. 1, 2...
We filmed one of the sales with hidden cameras to reveal in detail how they actually work.
Close out.
And psychologist Jane Furbank will explain the powerful and complex techniques the salesmen use to fool people into parting with their money. Sales have been held every Sunday in this shop in East London's Petticoat Lane Market for 9 years. As we arrive, the warm-up salesman is in full flow.
And has everybody got some money on them, yes or no? Well, why didn't you say so? I started an hour ago. Right, Kelly.
The gift of the gab is an absolutely crucial thing for these salespeople. By talking all the time, they stop people thinking about what they're actually saying, because they're trying to focus on what the salesman is saying now, not on what he was saying a moment ago, and he never stops.
He shows piles of brand name items which he says will cost virtually nothing.
Brand spanking new, complete with batteries, complete with a game for £5.
He's lying. None of the items shown here will actually be offered for sale.
I have to, by law, sell you everything with a guarantee. I have to do that.
This is also a lie. No item sold today has a valid guarantee. Once he thinks there are enough people in the shop, the warm-up man hands over to the salesman. He starts the sale by throwing out packs of batteries for 5 pence, calculators for 20 pence.
Cash? You bought one, 20 pence.
The first thing the salesman does is to establish a strong parental type control over them, which says that he's the boss, he's the father, they're the children, they should do what he says.
Next, the salesman starts to put together a pile of goods for a crazy price, just £5.
Can anyone make use of one of these DVD players? Anyone?
The goods are piled in black plastic bin bags.
The black plastic bags, it's kind of like Santa Claus. Look at the size of them. Whatever is in them, it has to be worth £5.
2 of the crazy lots are handed out to plants, people who work for the sale. We'll see this man again later on.
Something that represents £5.
Led to believe they stand a chance of getting one of these lots, customers are told to hold up a £5 note. Before they can question it, the money is taken from them and they're given a ticket instead.
Number 2.
It's surprising just how powerfully hypnotized people can be by simply telling them to do something.
Up. Up. Raise your hands up. Up.
You keep saying, raise your hand, and every time you do it, you reinforce, among other things, his control over you.
Next, another crazy lot.
Anybody else? There's a Sony PlayStation 1. Number 2, there's a Sony Discman.
But again, this bag goes to the plant. Clutching his sack of goodies, he picks his moment and slips out the back door after sharing a joke with one of the sales staff. With the crowd primed and ready, the sale moves into its crucial phase.
I'm now going to show you something, folks. They're not imitation, they are not copies. They are genuine Alexis. That's Watches of Switzerland.
This is where they make their money. Unlike the fabulously cheap packages on show earlier, these are the only items that customers can actually buy at this sale.
Where's the best cameras in the world made? Japan. Give it here to me. It's a Tamashi. It's an FMD system. Who likes it? Raise an arm up in the air. Up.
So these are the real so-called bargains on offer today. A Tamashi camera, made in Eastern Europe, no guarantee, retail value £10, on sale today for the bargain price of £70. A genuine Alexis his and her watch set. Retail price £10, yours today for just £70.
Who would offer me £70 on the choice? Who would? You would. You would. Can you pay?
Yeah.
How would you pay?
Cash.
Get his £70. Now watch this. No, he's first.
No, he's in front of you.
The customers are now so eager to snap up a bargain that they're fighting each other to hand over their cash.
Israel!
He's using quite a lot of group techniques by this time, calling people by the names of their countries, finding out where they're from, how many children they've got, this kind of thing. Do you want to be part of this nice group?
Is my brother from Denmark? Is my Uncle Joe from Bangladesh?
60.
At this point, things take a turn for the surreal. He appears to be giving the goods away for free.
Don't pay, it's yours. We all spent £5. What one, sir? Can you pay? How would you pay? Don't pay, it's yours.
In fact, no one will really get anything for free.
Put your money away, they're yours.
All this don't pay, it's yours stuff, show me £5, no, put it away, which he keeps on with, so that nobody knows who's getting what, who's paying for it, and if they're paying for it, how much they're paying for it, and even if they pay for it, whether they're going to get their money back or not. This confusion, of course, is quite deliberate.
Go on, all again, whatever. Take out 20.
Half an hour after handing over their cash, the customers are finally given their goods. The salesman is keen to stop customers examining their purchases until they leave the premises.
Thank you, sir. If I see you peeping, I'm going to take it back off you.
Now, he's very controlling here. He says, no looking, no peeping. Notice the childish words. He's bringing that Santa Claus thing back in. Everybody hopes there might be something good in there. Now his concern is get them out quick before they wake up and become adults again.
And suddenly it's all over, and customers are hustled outside before they realise they've been conned.
South Africa, God bless you. New Zealand, God bless.
We returned to the sale the following week to ask why they were ripping people off. Remember this man? He was one of the team.
Excuse me, can you tell me why you're selling cheap and shoddy goods to the public here?
I can't.
And this is the warm-up man. Curiously, today, he's lost for words.
It's not really my concern. You better speak to the salesman.
This man also played a key role in the sale, but he also had nothing to say to us. He preferred a more direct approach. Our reporter received a punch in the face and a black eye. Meanwhile, customers from the sale were coming back to complain.
We just opened the box and we just pressed the, what do you call it, button, and the lens, it went out. Yeah,
It popped out.
it came out.
And how much did you pay for the camera?
£70.
It's a rip-off, I think.
However, there are some instances where consumer awareness just isn't possible. This man is delivering a Chinese takeaway to an apartment in San Francisco. But as he's unloading, he drops the food onto the ground. Then, unbelievably, scoops it all back into the containers, clears up the evidence, and it's ready to deliver to some unsuspecting customer. And the people who ordered this pizza delivery had no way of knowing that they were getting one topping they hadn't asked for. A quick smarten up, and no one's any the wiser. Visitors London. Steeped in history, it attracts millions of tourists to its famous and colourful landmarks. But wherever there's a tourist attraction, there's an added, unwelcome sight. A smelly, unhygienic, overpriced and unlicensed hot dog stand. They may look rather tempting. They might even smell great to a hungry tourist, but you'd be unwise to buy one. These overpriced hot dogs, selling at anything from £2.50 to £12, are the most unsavoury snacks you can buy in London.
It's a wee bit greasy, but it's quite nice and tasty.
9 a.m. and an alley near Buckingham Palace becomes an open-air kitchen for the vendors who come here to unload their trolleys and fry up their hot dogs and onions. Their hygiene standards clearly leave a lot to be desired. This man carelessly blows his nose all over the food. And there's no waste here. Sausages dropped on the street are scooped back into the box to reuse. This woman is putting yesterday's leftover cooked sausages in with uncooked ones, a breeding ground for germs. There's no running water or refrigeration. Onions are chopped with dirty knives and rubbish is stacked in the corner. During the day, London's royal parks play host to a ridiculous cat and mouse game as the park's police attempt to curb the antics of the hot dog cowboys.
It's fairly warm and it's fairly bright, so you've got lots of people about and they'll be out in numbers to make their money.
About time you stopped doing this, isn't it?
Ancient laws governing crown property give the police here limited powers. They hand out fines that are never paid and move traders on who return as soon as the police turn their backs.
It's very frustrating that you're trying to enforce the law. The law is very weak. There's a huge, great loophole that they exploit to the full. It's pretty much a superficial exercise, really.
If you think the level of hygiene seen here is bad, just look at what these chefs are cooking up behind closed doors. This man in Detroit has his own way of dealing with a difficult customer. An added little extra goes into the risotto. In these kitchens, the proof is literally in the pudding. And yes, this chef did just spit into the customer's pasta. The England squad could take a few tips from these bistro chefs about passing the ball. But in this case, it's meatballs. After the fun and games, they get down to the more serious business of redecorating the kitchen. But there's no waste here. The mashed potato will end up on an unsuspecting diner's plate. Tasty. Back on the streets of London. When night falls, it's a different story for the hot dog vendors. Meet the enforcer. Peter Reeves from Westminster City Council is a man on a mission. With stab-proof vest, flashlight and a notebook, he leads the fight against the fast food bandits. The precautions are necessary. Hot dog wars have been linked with violence and even killings.
We ain't going to allow them to carry on the streets. We've had enough. The trolleys are getting more dangerous. They're being rigged up cheaper and cheaper. And there is a real risk to the public, and we ain't going to have it.
10 p.m. and Westminster licensing officers are out on the streets. They have far more stringent powers to deal with the vendors than their colleagues in the royal parks.
Hi, sir, can I have a word? Westminster Council, Street Enforcement. Do you have a licence to trade here at all?
This is one vendor who's banged to rights.
the gab be served up in. It's full of mould all the way along the bottom.
His trolley is impounded and he should be prosecuted for illegal trading. But this seller is as slippery as his sausages and he slides off into the night.
The reason why these people come out is because of the hundreds, thousands of pounds that can be earned on a Friday, Saturday night in the West End. And that's why they keep on coming back. The risk of a £1,000 fine now and again is worth them coming back.
As the hot dog roundup goes on into the small hours, some of the locals become hostile.
Turn your gas off, all right?
I have just bought the best hot dog ever, and you're telling me it's
Have
not...
a look at the state of the trolley. They're filthy. Don't do it. They see us as being pleasure police, of going around and depriving people of their right to have a hot dog and get food poisoning. That's their choice. You know, they're fine, but you know, at the end of the day, we're here to protect the public, and we won't have it.
This is where the trolleys come to end their days. Peter's never happier than when he sees the spoils of a good night's work being ground to scrap.
They might end up as cars or knives and forks or something. But at least they won't be back out on the streets of Westminster, which is what we want.
The desire to make a quick buck is at the heart of rogue trading. These are the challenged workers of America. Their organization supposedly provides employment for people with severe disabilities. It's a heart-rending sell that persuades customers to part with their money. But just how disabled are these workers?
I didn't know that you were the owner.
When challenged by a reporter, it's a different story. Remember this man? Here he is earlier on the phone. But how does he sound now?
I have no comment.
In fact, it was a massive con. Michael Curtis, the mastermind behind this operation, has pulled off this scam at least once before.
Rogue traders can come in all shapes and sizes. They can look very reputable, they can have very good offices, they can offer you some very good products, or say they do, but always beware.
Rogue traders on the front line are often easy to spot. But behind closed doors, there's a different breed of rogues who prefer to get up close and personal. There's nothing like a trip to the hairdresser's to make a girl feel good about herself. She might even decide to have some hair extensions. Done well, they take several hours to fit and cost £200 or £300. They can look fabulous. But they're not always done this well.
It was just an absolutely hideous experience. And I just would not want to go through it again, to be honest.
It was just a joke, really. You couldn't put it up, you couldn't put it down. You couldn't leave it loose because basically you just had bits of hair, all different lengths.
Both these women paid hundreds of pounds to have the hair extensions they dreamed of. But they made the mistake of coming to this salon in London's smart Maida Vale and suffered at the hands of Pierre Martel, one of Britain's worst hairdressers. For at least 4 years, Martel has been operating her hair extensions business from the front room of her home in this fashionable North London street. During this time, dozens of women have complained about her shoddy work and abusive behaviour.
The most common complaints are where people have had the hair extensions carried out and they simply work loose. They don't last. They're not as robust as she claims them to be in the advertisements. And some consumers have told us that she has been abusive.
Few customers ever get their money back from Martel, who has £35,000 worth of outstanding county court judgments against her business. We decided to go undercover to find out for ourselves just how dodgy Pierre Martel is. This is Lucy. She likes the idea of hair extensions and has bravely volunteered to be our guinea pig. The appointment booked, Lucy heads off to Martel's salon in Maida Vale. With her is our researcher Julia, who will film her experience with a hidden camera.
Hi, it's Lucy.
Hi.
How are you?
Good, thanks. She has a very glamorous, very beautiful studio, beautiful big vases, and so, you know, you don't get the wrong impression. You really do believe that you are somewhere that somebody knows what they're doing.
Wow. Is that gorgeous?
She looked very glamorous. She just looked the part. Lovely way with her, really softly spoken. So I suppose I put my trust in her, which was obviously the worst thing I could have done.
Martel charged Lucy £480 in cash in advance for the extensions. She claims that the hair is specially woven for her, but we've learned from an ex-employee who asked for her identity to be concealed that the hair is bought in bulk from this shop in northwest London. Although £20 would cover the cost for one person, Martel allegedly reused hair on some of her clients.
On a few occasions, she just applied used hair, hair that she had taken from somebody else.
Just hours after Daniela Palomara had her extensions fitted, her scalp became incredibly itchy.
It got so bad that there was blood on my hands from where I'd been scratching my head, which was, yes, I know I caused myself, but I couldn't stop scratching. It was awful.
The following day, Daniela went to her doctor and discovered she had infectious dermatitis. At Connect Salon, extension specialist Angelo Giorgio has treated a number of Martel's dissatisfied clients. Angelo claims that Martel uses a method of weaving that is unsuitable for many of her clients. She sews in large hair wefts that should only be used on Afro-Caribbean hair, which is much thicker.
This is how it looks, and all this hair is actually sewn onto the head. You'll get this sort of system actually slipping down off the European hair, whereas if it was with our system using smaller extensions, you wouldn't get that problem. The way she's adapted her system for a weave-on for the European type of hair, I think is wrong.
Oh. From my point of view, there was no hygiene at all. She had a little dog, and he was always in the room with the client.
Oh.
She used to touch him, hold him, then put her hands in the hair of the clients.
Customers who left their bags on the floor often ran a risk of leaving with more than they bargained for.
The dog used to pee in their bag sometimes, or even poo.
The omens aren't promising for Lucy. Will she get the hair of her dreams? We'll find out later. Rogue traders are not just cunning tricksters. They can often be lazy and irresponsible. Take this waste disposal company in Seattle. Rather than recycle their customers' soiled nappies, these dirty operators simply dump their wares outside a public tip. A blatant health hazard, but not as bad as this next scam. This man in New York State was paid handsomely to take away chemical waste. The barrels are clearly marked as being acutely hazardous and should be carefully disposed of in a safe and controlled manner. Instead, he just loads them into a transit van and dumps them in a nearby field without concern for the possible contamination threat to the area as they start to leak. These young consumers are the target of gangs of rogue traders who've cashed in on the latest craze to hit the playgrounds, collecting and swapping Pokemon cards. The Pokemon craze started 2 years ago. There's been a computer game, a television series, a movie, and all the usual merchandise used to market a blockbuster. Furry toys, t-shirts, and games. But most popular of all are the cards. To date, some 300 million have been sold. They retail at around £2.50 a pack. Counterfeit gangs soon seized the opportunity to cash in on the craze, swamping the market with bogus trading cards.
It was about January, February when we first got reports of particularly fake fossil cards hitting the marketplace. Since then, all of the cards that we have on general release are actually being forged. They tend to be coming in from the Far East, places like Hong Kong, and also we've had some reports of them coming in from America.
Recent raids in South America and the Far East have uncovered warehouses full of fake goods. Besides taking a tough line on the fraudsters, Hasbro are also keen to help children identify fake cards.
A real booster has 2 crimps that are identical. A fake booster has a top crimp and a bottom crimp that are different. You can obviously see here. It's very obvious to see which one's the fake one.
We decided to go straight to the experts to find out just how good the fakes really are. These children are big Pokemon fans. Most of their pocket money goes on the cards.
I spend about £3 or £4 on Pokemon cards, including sweets and all that on.
How much do you spend on cards every week?
£4.
Barry, how many cards have you got there?
About 350, 250. 467. 163. Altogether 251.
The children are confident they can tell the difference between bogus cards and the real thing.
Done it. I guess this one's real. Done it.
Only 4 out of these 10 young experts could actually spot the fake card. One area of business that has traditionally proved fertile ground for the slickest of rogue traders is the holiday. We're far more likely to part with our money when our guard is down. This is the Lanzarote Beach Club, an upmarket timeshare resort in the Canary Islands. It's had thousands of happy customers over the years, and the salesmen are always busy. Timeshare veterans Stan and Brenda Wilson visited the club last summer and thought it was perfect.
It's a gentle slope down to the sea, and because of my condition, I've had a heart attack, then it is easy, you know, to and fro.
While they were there, sales staff persuaded them to sell their existing timeshare in the Algarve and to pay an additional £12,000 lump sum for holidays at the new development, Lanzarote Beach Club 2.
We were put in an electric buggy, shown round the site, and it's a big site, and the explanation of what was going to be done was excellent.
Little did they know that LBC had been selling timeshares at the new complex for the past 7 years. In all that time, they hadn't even laid the foundations. And they're not alone. Dozens of other people were also persuaded by the salesman to swap their existing timeshares for apartments in the phantom LBC2. While waiting for LBC2 to be built, the couple were told they could stay in lower standard accommodation in LBC1. But will the new complex ever become a reality? We decided to go to Lanzarote to find out what's happening at LBC. Posing as prospective buyers, our reporters were soon pounced on by the eager salesman on site. Sure enough, it wasn't long before our salesman Tom was giving us the guided tour. And look at this, it's the same luxurious LBC2 site. Tom proves to be an expert at talking up this hole in the ground.
All units will be air conditioned on cold. There'll be 2 swim-up bars in it, so you can swim and have a drink. I love saying it as well. A Olympic-sized swimming pool.
But how much of this is just a slick sales pitch? Mike Hallinan is a former salesman at LBC.
We were told, basically, it's left to you to decide what you want to say. If you want to say there's a swimming pool at the bottom or a swimming pool on the side, you can change it.
As another summer passes by without any sign of building at the LBC2 site, Stan and Brenda Wilson doubt that they will live to see their promised luxury apartment.
All we've got for our money at the moment is a hole in the ground. I don't want to start ranting and raving because it doesn't get you anywhere anyway, so we haven't done that. He don't rant and rave because if he did, he could have a heart attack.
But this isn't the only scheme the salesmen are offering at LBC. We'll be returning to the resort later on. We sent our volunteer Lucy undercover to have hair extensions fitted by Pierre Martel, one of Britain's worst hairdressers with a lengthy list of unhappy clients. One of those clients was EastEnders star Barbara Windsor. Her regular hairdresser, Lucinda Sharp, was horrified when she saw the work that Martel had done.
Barbara was left in a state where her whole scalp was burning, inflamed, itchy, tight, sore, with lesions and some patches of hair that had literally just come away.
Do you know her role in EastEnders?
Peggy.
No, she's Peggy in real life.
Oh, right, so she plays her own character. Yeah.
Just common. A fishwife.
Barbara Windsor sent this letter to Beware, detailing her treatment at Martel's salon. She went on to thank us for investigating Martel's business. But her abuse is not just aimed at celebrities. Martel will insult just about anyone.
I stood up and I looked in the mirror close up and I said, I don't like it. You told me that it would look like the picture. Well, darling, she said, if you wanted to look like effing Catherine Zeta-Jones, we don't do facelifts here.
The job is finished, and Lucy can't tell yet how good it looks.
Oh. Thank you very much.
Then it's off to Connect Salon to have the work inspected by extension specialist Angelo Giorgio.
Yeah, that is one of the worst jobs I have ever seen. That is absolutely vile. Look at this is loose already.
Like Lucy's, Julie Carroll's extensions looked awful, so she insisted they were removed before she even left the salon.
She said to me, well, darling, what is it you don't like about it? And I said, well, the whole thing. I said, it's not in a proper style. I said, it's all wispy at the bottom. I said, it's sticking out. I look like something out of an 80s rock band. So she ummed and ahed, and then she turned round to the employee and said, she said, just take her hair out for her. She said, and as for you, and looked at me, she said, you need to see a psychiatrist.
5 days later, Lucy's extensions have dropped alarmingly. They're causing itching and discomfort, and they look dreadful. Lucy wants them removed and her money back. She calls the salon to speak to Martel.
Basically, I'm calling to say, because I'm not very happy with the extensions at all.
What's the problem?
Well, I don't know, but, I mean, you've sort of sewn them all on together in one big long line, and they stick out.
Not magic. If it's a case of having them placed differently or finer, that can be done.
But how come they weren't finer in the beginning? Because it's £480, surely...
It's not about bloody £480.
But it should be.
Premium hair, and you got premium hair.
How can I guarantee that I get my money back?
No grounds for refund. So I suggest you call next week. I can't help you with anything here. Right.
Unable to get any satisfaction on the phone, Lucy returns to try and claim a refund. Again, our researcher went along with the hidden camera. Lucy's quickly hustled into the kitchen, away from the rest of the clients in the salon. Pierre and an assistant examine her hair.
To be honest with you, well, I've paid £480 and it's all kind of falling out. Look at that there. I mean, what do you mean it hasn't been looked after? You sort of...
Yeah, I've got a fever. Raise my voice, I'll have you removed. If you want to sit and talk civilized, I'll sit civilized. If you want to behave like a friend, I'll have you removed. You sure you just didn't go swimming and go...
Haven't been swimming. I've washed my hair twice.
It looked fabulous when you did.
But then, as soon as I lifted the underneath, it was so visible.
I'll have you removed off these premises if you're going to keep going on like that, okay? I will have you removed. You come back on Wednesday and have it done.
I can't really guarantee the fact that I'm going to get my cash, though.
We're not here to rip people off. We're here to help people. That's what we do.
6 phone calls and 3 weeks later, Lucy did eventually get her refund. But she was one of the lucky ones. Most clients never get a penny back. Pierre Martel declined to be interviewed. She dismissed our allegations and sent us testimonials from satisfied customers.
Pierre Martel is going around doing so much damage to so many people and affecting their lives in a negative and not a positive way that she needs to be stopped, and she needs to be stopped now.
Road traders exploit consumers and they exploit the weak laws, and it's time that this government took it seriously and legislated.
Back on the tourist front line, and a breed of scammer who target visitors to London from the moment they arrive. This is Victoria Station, arrival point for thousands of tourists every day via the Gatwick Express. But once they step off the train, cowboy cab operators are waiting to rip them off. An undercover reporter arrives posing as a foreign visitor. Within seconds, he's approached by a tout.
I want to go to this address. SC1?
Yeah, take it straight away.
Thank you.
His journey to Waterloo would cost about £5 in a licensed London taxi.
How much is that?
£35, please.
35?
Yeah. Well, I know it's a short distance, that's what we charge. I tell you what, I'll reduce it to 20 because we should really charge, as you can see, saloon 35. I'll do it for 20 because it was a short distance.
I think I've only got £10 on me. I was told it to be £10.
No.
Eventually, the driver refused the fare. And here's another motor scam, this time in a New York car wash. This attendant helps himself to a little bonus when he thinks no one's looking. Here it is again. There's always a degree of trust involved when you invite a tradesman into your home. This plumber overstepped the mark when he decided to use the kitchen sink as a makeshift toilet. Let's hope he washed his hands. Silver screen legend Steve McQueen. He may be long gone in person, but he lives on in celluloid and on paper. When a signed still from The Great Escape was advertised in a magazine, autograph hunter Peter Heel leapt at the chance to secure it for his collection.
To have a genuine Steve McQueen signature signed photograph, especially from a movie like The Great Escape, which really made him very famous, would be absolutely superb.
But the autograph was a fake, part of a huge forged collection that was the product of a few minutes' work with a stencil and marker pen. Paul Wilson, a former chicken plucker from Norfolk, had decided to embark on a far more lucrative career, plucking large sums of money from unsuspecting autograph collectors. But in his greed, Wilson had become sloppy, and the police were able to catch him out by tracing the dates on the photographs themselves.
This photograph of Steve McQueen, on the back of the photograph there's a reference number which shows that this photograph could not have been generated before 1990. Steve McQueen died in 1980.
When the police finally arrested Wilson, his house was crammed full of the tools of his trade. Wilson was convicted of 12 counts of deception and sentenced to a 6-month weekend curfew.
That's one of the most disappointing things of the whole escapade with Wilson. I'd hoped eventually that justice would be done, and that didn't prevail, unfortunately. He got off with it. Crime for Wilson paid, there's no doubt about it.
There's nothing more intimate than our hopes and dreams, but even these are fair game for the rogue traders. They claim to be emigration specialists, dedicated professionals offering the means to start a new life abroad.
We'd lived in Canada for several years when we were in the forces, and the lifestyle there is very much on par with America, and we suited it very well, we thought. So the dream was there, we grabbed the dream, we had the euphoria.
They appeared to be a reputable company with smart offices and over 100 staff.
Sharp suits, smart offices, slick websites. The whole thing was plausible.
They were called First Point International Europe Limited. In 1998, they launched a program offering UK truckers a job in America. For £5,000, they would handle the paperwork, ensure a green card, and find an employer in the US. Over 200 British drivers found the offer irresistible, forking out more than £1 million. David Gibbs signed up to the program, and he and his wife Nicola began making preparations for their new life in Orlando, Florida.
And obviously, you know, you feed off the excitement of each other. And I say, the information comes rolling back from First Point. You just keep going and you believe it's going to happen.
The couple sold their home and told their 3 young children they would soon be starting a new life abroad. They'd even found their dream home in Orlando.
98,000.
It's what I wanted. Showed them pictures of various schools. Their big dream was to ride on the yellow school bus.
Little did they know that the company was run by this man, David Webster, who they say has robbed them of their savings, their livelihoods, and even their dreams. First Point's job offer failed to materialize, and nothing seemed to be happening with their promised green cards. So David and Nicola traveled to the company's London HQ to try and get some answers from one of the managers.
Why we were contacting the embassy, he couldn't fathom, because they knew nothing. They don't know anything. And as for the INS, they don't even know what we're trying to achieve, he says. They continued on, didn't they? Yeah. We were frustrated to tears almost.
When clients started to investigate First Point, they discovered that company director Webster had a criminal record, and in 1999 he was banned from being a director of a company for 8 years. Webster insists his company had a policy not to make promises. They advised clients not to make travel plans before visas were approved, and claimed the US Labor Department had approved truckers on the program. But the US Immigration Department told us that truck drivers are classified as unskilled labor, and as such have little chance of ever getting a work permit.
We've actually been dealing with an INS investigator, And he's actually told us that, and so is the embassy, we're not going to gain our green card as a truck driver. Full stop.
And the Gibbs are unlikely to get any of their £4,000 back from FPI Europe, which has now been wound up.
We hired a solicitor, and their advice was, don't waste your money.
There's been one moment of light relief for First Point's distressed clients. Former boss David Webster was arrested at Orlando Airport in January this year on suspicion of attempting to defraud US immigration. He was put in a holding cell until he managed to raise the $1 million bail. He has to wear an electronic tag to ensure he doesn't leave the state.
It's left us feeling totally empty, and we do not trust a soul anymore, do we?
No one.
Not a soul. And it's a hard way to live your life if you don't trust anybody. And it's all thanks to them, and I feel utter hatred for them. Utter hatred.
Welcome back to Lanzarote Beach Club. This is the resort where for the last 7 years salesmen have been selling timeshare at this phantom complex next door. Posing as prospective buyers, our undercover reporters are given the tour by salesman Tom. But he's got a new sales pitch, a complicated points scheme called IVC, International Vacation Club. LVC members George Watson and his partner Joan were given the same hard sell.
They were giving me 6 weeks accommodation in 5-star hotels and apartments throughout the world. That was a promise. That's why we parted with the money, and that's why we signed the contract.
This is how it works. Members who owned timeshare weeks at Lanzarote Beach Club sold them back to the new company, IVC, and paid a further lump sum to upgrade to the new system. They were then allocated points to spend on holidays in the countries of their choice. The salesman persuaded the Watsons to buy into the new points club, IVC.
Just give us £5,600, your 4 weeks of existing accommodation, and you'll never look back, you won't regret it. You'll be coming in here in 12 months' time and shaking my hand. Tell me how good I am.
But when they actually tried to use their points, they got a nasty surprise. Instead of the 6 weeks they were promised at the sales meeting, the couple were now told that they only had enough points for 2 weeks accommodation. They complained to IVC.
They've written back and said it's not their problem, it's the marketing company in LBC.
Our reporters asked salesman Tom whom he worked for.
So who do you work for LBC selling IVC, or do you work for IVC directly?
For IVC.
Right, okay, right.
It is.
So the sales staff are IVC staff, basically?
Yeah.
Right.
So why did IVC tell the Watsons that the salesman worked for a separate marketing company? Who then is behind this new point scheme? For a start, it's got no connection to the International Vacation Club in Bristol, a thoroughly reputable travel company. Back at the resort, our salesman Tom now gets a bit carried away.
Well, obviously it's an American company, which is part of GE and all that. It's a very, very big company.
Who's that?
GE, General Electric.
This was news to General Electric, the giant American corporation that used to supply travel insurance to IVC. They were surprised IVC salesmen are making such claims and told Beware that as a result of our investigations, they have now terminated their contract with the company. Unhappy IVC customers say the points they bought don't get them the holidays they were promised. So how do the salesmen explain these points? Tom passes our reporters over to the TO, or takeover man, Paul. It's his job to close the sale.
The points are based on next door.
Right.
So, I mean...
So I'm buying, like, essentially the kind of deeds to an apartment over there?
Yeah, basically, that's how it works.
But it's been a hole in the ground for the last 7 years. How can the customer know what he's getting?
I didn't know how the points worked, because on my first 3 or 4 sales, the price changed according to, obviously, what the TO or the manager felt the person could afford.
We asked Paul for written details of the value of the points.
And it tells you all on the website as well.
Wrong again. We checked their website. There's no information about point values here.
The question between right and wrong came one morning at a sales meeting when the sales manager actually said, I hope you haven't got any morals. But I immediately thought this must be a joke, and I laughed along with everybody else. You have to decide whether you're going to go along with something that you feel isn't right, or you're going to, as I did, walk away from it.
Having swapped their luxury timeshare for IVC points, George and Joan Watson feel disgusted by the whole experience.
I feel I've been swindled out of my money. It's a total con. It's disgraceful. And I wish I'd never set eyes on any of it.
We invited LBC and IVC to take part in this program. Instead, they sent us statements via PR consultant Max Clifford, saying they were naturally concerned by any complaint by a member, and they had absolutely nothing to hide, but declined to be interviewed without a list of names of all the customers who'd spoken to us.
In my 15 years of working in the timeshare industry, I have had the privilege of working for some of the best companies in the industry. However, I have also had the misfortune to work in the last 12 months at LBC and to discover one of the largest scams that I've ever encountered.
With rogue traders coming in all shapes and sizes, it's impossible to completely guard against them. But by reading the small print, doing business with established, reputable companies, and always looking a gift horse in the mouth, you may just avoid becoming their next victim.